Hello, beautiful people. My name is Indra Seiler, and welcome to the video if you're joining for the first time of breaking the silence and being curious. There's a very clear intention to this video. I will get to it in a moment, but let me introduce myself first to you. I'm 49 years old. I live in the Netherlands. For the last 20 years, I've been working as an energy healer. I was teaching energy modalities. I'm a spiritual mentor. I've been before that also a nurse and a caretaker, particular for postpartum care. My big passion is music. Singing is my joy and really the voice of my soul. And I'm recording this very first video now on breaking the silence that I want to share with you a story I never wanted to share. And this will be very different from the other videos that are to follow, because in the other videos, I'm gonna start talking more in detail about ovarian cancer, not about the illness, but what the experience of it, that when you've been diagnosed with it, when you're going through the healing journey of it, through the treatments, and what it really does to you. So I'm gonna release videos about body dysmorphia. I'm gonna release videos about um, all of the different parts that you will encounter when you go through this journey. Body dysmorphia is just one of the topics, and that can be relatable to any kind of experience you have in life. People with eating disorders can very much relate to that. This is a very, very big topic. So I decided to first kick off and break the silence to let you know more about me. And it's not about my life story, it's not about me, but I want you to know one really important thing right now. I want you to look at me who I am now. I'm a woman in love. I'm deeply connected to my heart. I'm deeply connected, loving my inner child. I'm deeply enjoying life, despite currently, again, undergoing very massive life changes that can really initiate and trigger an existential crisis in somebody's life. And since this is my second time of experiencing cancer, I'm curious. I've been pondering on recording this video for a long time, so I decided to come up with the best way possible, and this is to take sequences of things that are more technical and teachings, but this video is sharing. Because it was a friend of mine that said, do you want to teach or do you want to share? This video is about sharing. Yeah. I want to share my heart and share my story because of the intention that I have. And the intention is super clear. If there's women out there universally around the planet that will hear my story and see who I have become today, what I hope from the bottom of my heart is that it will create hope. What I hope that it will spark a power inside of you that you will rise. And that makes me immediately teary. Because guess what? This part of the body where ovarian cancer locates is the center of your power. The word power triggers a lot of people. I'm not going to go into that now because I want to focus on the intention of this video. So the word power will also be an extra video in the video series where I'm going to go more into the teachings. But this is about sharing, and there's a subtle difference of teaching and sharing. Now I need you really to listen, sit down, and allow myself to share the story that I've never shared. I made a conscious choice not to share it. I mean, people knew that I had a tough life, but I really made very conscious that people wouldn't know any details. There's people that know details, my therapists, obviously, and some friends and my husband. But I experienced a life in which I have become silenced, disempowered, and encountered so much darkness that my husband always says, I have no idea how you got out of it, and you're still a kind, compassionate, loving person. I'm recording this now, and this is really, really important to me that you understand when you hear the story that you look at me now, here in the now, with 49 years old. I have not been destroyed. Despite having cancer again, I am not destroyed. My heart loves. My soul sings. Because it was the experience through going through this agony of surgery and chemotherapy and diagnosis and this whole life experience that changed everything in my life, that was so radical, so heartbreaking, so crushing to my body, crushing to my spirit, crushing to everything. I mean, I'm literally, the conditioning I experienced before that I worked for decades to change was crushed within 2 years. So radically, so deep, so profound. I could have never imagined such a transformation. So, what I'm sharing with you, in particular, women also who go through the journey of ovarian cancer, and let me be very clear, very clear here. Please, no journey of life is the same, even if you have the same diagnosis. So, please bear that in mind. But it's really, really important because it's not only my life experience, it's my experience of 20 years working with people, it's my own personal experience that I'm going to share as a human being, as a woman going through this experience. My intention is very clear. So when a woman, particular to those women that struggle, hears this story and remembers who I am today, I hope that the walls of shame will break and drop. I hope that the stories that you believe about yourself and that you've been told about your worth, about that your anger and that your rage are inappropriate to protect yourself, about to be who you truly are because of social conditioning in every society. I hope it will inspire you. I hope that you will remember that it is your rage and your anger that can be a power to heal. I would have never recorded this video. I would have never ever gone public with crowdfunding to support my holistic path next to the medical treatments that I'm getting for the second time. I would have never ever considered doing that. I've been hearing for years, Indra, you have to share your story. You have to go out there. You have to do it. No, 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 no. It took a second time of cancer that I have the guts to do it and that I know that I have to do it because this is greater than me. This is not just about me. So let's begin. I wanted today just share my life story as raw and honest as it is. I've always turned down because my life story is so crazy to most people that they cannot comprehend it. Whenever people try to ask me, so where were you born? Where did you grow up? How did it, I'm trying to give them bits and pieces. So I realized very quickly that people really cannot understand how crazy it was. Yeah. And again, this is now not me to give a testimony or to say, look at my bad life and da 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 da. No, I'm using my story because storytelling is very powerful. And this is my life that gave me experiences. And again, I want you to remind me to feel me now in this moment, who I've become, despite all of it. And again, I'm experiencing a tumor in the place of power of my body. So I'm curious why the second time. Here comes the story. This is the first time that I share it, certainly publicly. The first time I share it in details with no filters. So please be careful not to have any children around. I don't want anybody to hear things that's not appropriate for their age. Um, let's start. I was born into an immigrant family that lived in Germany. This immigrant family was very tight. They were from former Yugoslavia. My mother was Serbian German, my father Slovenian. My mother already had a daughter. She was 11 years older than me. There were grandparents, there were uncles, very, very tight. When I look back at pictures of these early years, I see birthday pictures of a little girl sitting surrounded by people. And what they love to do is to pile up pyramids of alcohol next to me and pyramids of cigarettes next to me. And then they would take a picture with me and the birthday cake in between. What I see is a lost little girl. I grew up with people that try to do the best they can. This is not about shaming or blaming my parents, to be really, really clear. This is not about saying my mommy and daddy stories and la 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 la. Yeah? I came to a place of connection, forgiveness, and love for my parents. But I'm going to share this story unfiltered, raw as it is, because I know that many people struggle. Let me stay focused with my heart because I'm guided by God to share my story, and it is very hard. My father was an alcoholic. He was violent. He loved my mother dearly. My mother died when I was 5 years old. My mother went through an extremely painful, extremely terrifying, for me, terrifying process, but also for her, terrifying process of radiation, chemotherapy, and surgery that amputated everything that they could amputate from the breast cancer and the ovarian cancer. It was 45 years ago, so you can imagine that medicine there was at a very different state. The moment I was born, the whole life of my mother was already centered around the illness. My father worked in the factory every day, really hard. He was the breadwinner. He missed his home country. As I said, he was an alcoholic, deeply depressed, and deeply traumatized man. As long as I can remember, as my grandparents were still alive, my father, my mother, my sister around me, I was a very strong kid, meaning I had my own mind. I was really playful. I didn't want to be a girl. I wanted to run and jump and play with trains and do all the things that my heart desired, just to be a kid, to be a unique kid with my experience. But that was not allowed. I was very quickly conformed into the role of obedience. Be a good girl, be a nice girl, behave. Every woman experienced that. We all experience that as women in one way or another. That's very normal. They call that, you know, uh, education, parenting. My mother died when I was 5 years old. In the same year that my mother died, my grandparents died, and my sister, who took care of me like a mother, she ran away from the home. So I was left with my father, who was completely broken by the grief of my mother, completely unpredictable. He was working all day, so he was immediately looking for a daycare to put me in when he was going to work. Out of nowhere, I lost my entire family, everyone but my father. He was the only security I had in life with 5 years old. And then over day, I was suddenly placed into daycare families. I remember the first time I went into a daycare family, I wouldn't take off my jacket. I wouldn't take off anything. I was just frozen, sitting in a room. I don't remember what room it was, but I was just there. I was not able to talk. I was not able to look at the people. I was just in shock. My mother had just died. My sister ran away overnight. Now I'm going to tell you why she ran away. There's going to be more details. I was there with a father that could not take care of a child that was deeply broken and an alcoholic. For the sake of this video, I'm not going to use certain names directly because it's against the law. But from that moment onwards, I experienced every kind of abuse you can imagine. My father mistaken me for his wife, and he did things with me from the age of 5 until the age of 14 that are unspeakable. He did the same to my sister. That's why she ran away. I was depending on him for my life, and he was the center of my pain. From the age of 5 to the age of 18, I went into foster care. Many different families with different ethnicities, different backgrounds, different social economic backgrounds, um, different religions, different nationalities. They started to take me in, and it was a roller coaster after roller coaster until I was 18 and I finally was old enough to live my own life. I also, at the age of 7, went into an orphanage. My father had met a new woman. She had also grown children. We moved in. My father started a new relationship. I went to a new school. I started to accept this new woman as my mother. I even called her mommy. And this relationship broke. So my father moved out, took me with him. And within 2 years, I lost two mothers, plus my whole family, plus the mother, which was my sister, who took care of me. In the first year of my school, I changed 3 times school. From the age of 5, I was exposed to abuse that was physical, mental, emotional, sexual, every day. There was so much darkness around me that at the age of 6, I considered suicide. That is the truth. I continued living my life through all the circumstances, and the natural response of my body to all the abuse, to all the outrageous things that were happening would be to defend myself, to fight back, to speak up, to protect myself, to push people away. But my body didn't do such a thing. I went into freeze mode. That was my survival. So people could do whatever they wanted with me. I wasn't there. I was feeling, experiencing everything. I was conscious. I wasn't dissociated, but I didn't fight back. My body just went into freeze, and there was no amount of willpower that could break that. My body just went into freeze. It's very important to say that because the natural response when you experience something should be fighting back, protecting yourself. When you're a little child, you should learn by your parents that to have discernment, who is safe, who is not safe, that if something crosses your boundary, that you have the right to say no. When you feel scared, to be comforted. None of that was there. So I learned as a conditioning that the life was completely unsafe. I was completely unsafe, and I had to watch my back 24/7. Now, one of the reasons I'm such an incredible healer and I have so many great gifts is because they were born out of survival. Forward, back, forward, forward. My father, at the age of 14, he killed himself. It's not official, not on a document, but I knew he did. I was grieving, heartbroken, and completely destroyed for a week. The biggest moment of grace and mercy was that at the funeral of my father, my entire classmates, all the classmates that I went to school with, showed up and my teachers, and they were there with me, and a Catholic priest. And the moment the Catholic priest, which I personally didn't know, held me in his arms and he prayed upon me, I felt my pain being lifted from me. I didn't know what was happening to me, but there was something inside of me that gave me the strength to go through this situation, stand at the grave of my father at the age of 14. A man that had literally destroyed me. And I was grieving and crying for him. So this is one of the ambivalent feelings that we develop. Yeah. I love you. I hate you. I love you. I hate you. I loved my father, but I also hated him. And because I didn't know that you could hate and love, I felt like a really, really bad person. Because I'm his daughter, I shouldn't hate him. But actually, hate is the appropriate emotion to feel if somebody attacks you. That's appropriate. I didn't know that. So I swallowed it. All the hate, all the rage, all the anger, by time and time again, that people attacked me in whatever way or form, particularly the one that I loved, that didn't love me, because that is not love. What my father did is not love. You can say, yeah, but on a spiritual level, he loved you. On the so no, blah, blah, blah. On a human level, that was not love what he did. It's abuse. Reminding you again, I've gone through extensive treatment, therapies, and healings to be able to come to a place of peace with my father. But I'm telling you the raw story. Silencing my emotions for decades. I was, by the age of 18 so dissociated from my feelings, I couldn't even get angry. I couldn't. I was a complete people pleaser. I was completely like, it was easy for me to be nice and kind because this is what the world wanted me to be all the time. The world didn't want a little girl that was crying and angry and making ugly faces and screaming because nobody wanted a girl and to take care of a girl that was behaving like that. It was okay for some boys, but for a little girl, if you wanted a family, a foster care family, or if you wanted to be picked up from the orphanage, you needed to be nice. So the extreme trauma and emotional wounds that I was carrying, there was no help, there was no psychological help, there was no support from nowhere. I went through it by myself and with God. I don't know how I survived it, but I had a hell of a life with decades of depression. And I always wondered, particularly when I stepped on the path of healing, other people around me that were doing courses and self-development, they just seemed to heal easier than I did, you know? So from the moment that I turned 18, I left the last foster care family, and they were also from former Yugoslavia. I left them and I moved away as far as I could, trying to be in a little as contact as I could. Until today, I have absolutely none, 0% contact with my biological family or with foster care parents. And this is a conscious choice. I want you to remember again who I am now. the students that I have taught for the last 20 years, the thousands of people I've worked with, either as an energy healer, a mentor, or a nurse, or when you met me as a friend in life through the different stages of my life. You have got to know me as a person. I remember a friend of me saying, I think by now, I would say almost 30 years ago, she got angry at me because she said, it feels like I can never reach you. I love you and I want to reach you. And she was right. On the inside, there was me trying to reach life, trying to connect to people and be loved. But I just had such a barrier and walls around me. I wasn't able to really connect. I was so conditioned to take on the energy, personality, and form in any kind of connection with people that will make sure that I'm safe, that they love me, that they accept me. It was exhausting. And over the decades, this is part why I got depressed, is because I wasn't myself. I really tried the best I could, but I wasn't. Now, that doesn't say the people that met me in the last decades that my love was not genuine and not with integrity and that who they met was fake. No. You know, I grew over the years. It wasn't like a process overnight. In particular, the moment I started to engage with energy healing, that was actually where the real breakthroughs came. This is why my path went onto that pathway to energy healing. That was not something I grew up with or was normal for me. I was growing up, I was Christian. Um, Growing up, part of the family is Jewish. So these kind of things were completely a no-go, not something I was exposed by. I always had a deep love for God. I loved being in church. The non-seen world was always more real to me than the seen world. And I remember one of my Kabbalah teachers, when I became a student, said, you don't have the problem to connect to the light. You actually have the problem to connect to this life, to this body, to this physical life. And that was true. This is how many people, when they say, oh, I don't want to be here on this terrible world, I can tell you now, second time of cancer, I really want to be here. I really enjoy this life with all its complexities, with all its suffering, with all its struggles. It's a damn good life. It's amazing what we can do. We can love. We can love. We can love. Remember again, through all of these challenges, I went through 30 years of depression. I struggled through it mostly on my own. Whenever I went to the doctor, I went to seek for help. There was none. Eventually, I got into therapy, a very intensive year therapy that required me also to be in the therapy center partly and partly at home. That was very intense, and that was also in Dutch. I didn't speak Dutch by then. But I knew that I was praying. I was breaking down in my studio apartment in the time that I was still studying in the conservatory music. I was breaking down, and I remember that a friend of mine was present, and I really said, I don't know what's happening to me, but I know I need a breakthrough. I can't do this life. I don't know how to do this life. There's such an enormous pain inside of me. I don't even know where to begin. And then step by step, I got into this therapy center, and it was psychotherapy, drama therapy, creative therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy. I talked to a psychiatrist, all these kind of levels of support and help. It was a group therapy, which was hardcore for me because my Dutch was. And I learned Dutch really fast in that year, and my Dutch is excellent now. I prefer to speak English until today because that is, for me, the most powerful language in which I can express myself. This is also why all my communication is in English. Forgive me, Dutch. I love you, but it is what it is. My husband is Dutch, by the way, so I speak Dutch. Um, I live a life today now that I feel I'm blessed to live. I'm able to have a healthy, open, loving relationship. And by open relationship, I don't mean what people now think, oh, they have an open relationship. No, I'm finally open. There's no walls of protection around me. Yeah. I'm able to receive the support and love. And this is why it's so freaking beautiful and powerful that I'm reaching out to you, that I'm sharing my story, because I never want to go public or be visible because of the amount of experience of darkness that I had. I said, if I go out into the world and God behold, go onto the internet, is a much bigger world virtually, the darkness is going to find me again. I just didn't want to do it. Then my neighbor, who created a beautiful garden, just, I can look into her garden. She died recently. And the thought came inside of me, and the thought, I don't want to die in silence. No. So my intention for what I share now is not that I'm thinking I'm dying. I mean, I am in a situation where death is a potentiality. We all know that. I can go down the road and I can be hit by a car. Well, if you have a tumor in your body, there's a potentiality, okay? Um, but I want to tell you that I was never, ever able to express the passion, the power, and the directness that you feel now. Because people that know me, my students, my clients, my family, they know how loving and kind I am. I'm also messy. I make mistakes. I'm faulty. I'm an ordinary human being. I'm not a saint. But despite all of the darkness that I experienced, despite having cancer and going through excruciating experiences, and now having again to face illness, I come out of it smiling. And this is not a spiritual idea or concept. I want you to feel in this video my energy. My inner child is happy and safe, and she's with me. She was completely, utterly destroyed. Because there are some childhoods, they say they're beyond repair. I don't know what I think about it, but I just know that despite everything that I've been through, despite everything that I'm facing now, I am not broken. And it is because I connect to my anger. It is because I connect to myself in a way where I start advocating for myself. And crowdfunding and sharing my story is the way to do it for me right now. This is not about money, even though the money is super important when you're dealing with illness. Your support financially makes such a difference in my life now. You cannot even imagine how much stress finances can bring on top of being ill. But that is a real, real thing when you want to recover the finances. And believe me, my husband, incredible. But I felt from the broken little girl, I needed to step up and rise into the mature woman to share my story because I've been silenced for decades with shame, with judgment, feeling like the crappiest person in the world, that there's fundamentally something wrong with me, and I believed it because that's what I learned. The way how people treated me, and my father was not the only one that abused me. In the foster care system, the foster care parents did the same. So I was exposed to ritualistic abuse until I was 18. And from 18 onwards, I was so smart to recreate the same situations because that's all I knew. I entered into very dysfunctional relationships where there was love, but there was also a lot of trauma and dysfunctionality. All I wanted is to be loved. So I made choices in order to be loved because I felt starved of love. I wasn't connected to myself. I couldn't feel my feelings. I was very sensitive. I was feeling everyone else's feelings because I had to. In order to survive, I needed to check out whether this predator was about to attack me or not, and if I could maybe hide or run away, or that I at least knew what was coming. But I couldn't feel my own feelings. It took me intense therapy to, and psychotherapy was a beginning, but was nearly not as effective as what I needed. I remember having something what you call in the Netherlands rebalancing by one of the founders of this technique, who was one of the people that also, is teaching people in this body work, somatic body work that is based on Osho's teachings. And I love this man. I trusted him so much. And it was also interesting that it was often man healers in certain positions that created a safe space for me so that I could finally connect to those parts within my body that were completely trapped of emotions. And that is a blessing. I was silenced. My ability to really take care of myself, to really be myself, also includes that when I'm now in day-to-day life and I feel like now, for example, I have to advocate for myself in the hospital. I have to make choices and I have to say no to things and yes to things. And I realized in my first round of chemotherapy and the treatments that it's hard when you're sick to be powerful, but I was just the authority of the doctors, the authority of the hospital, the authority of cancer. Just made me crumble. Not because I wanted to, because inside of me there was the rage coming saying no, but because I was conditioned to go into freeze mode and it shut my system down. I couldn't speak. I couldn't do anything. It was like automatic. It was just happening. And it was very hard to change. I had to go through extreme experiences with a therapist to be able to just touch the surface of this kind of mechanism inside of me that was trying to protect me, but was very dysfunctional. And it took a whole year from the moment we just touched the surface of this mechanism, a whole year until the healing was actually complete and integrated. A year. This is why I'm so good as a healer, because I can look into the darkness and see the light. I'm not scared of the darkness because I've lived it. I'm not scared of anything that happened. In the beginning of my career, when I started working, who came to me? Prostitutes, murderers, soldiers that were part of genocide, people with really heavy loads, because I wasn't scared of it. Not because I think I had to do it. I had a lot of belief systems that were related to that. So I changed that. I thought like, let's change the clientele, shall we? But everyone needs healing. A mentor of mine some time ago said, you know the truth always. I don't want to sound cocky, but I can truly say I do. You might not like what you see or sense, but it's not about liking or disliking truth. Truth is the only thing that heals. In a society that is so dysfunctional as we live today, particular when it comes around being silenced, these emotions, when you're silenced through life, and your life, if you have ovarian cancer, maybe was not so extreme like mine. Do not compare your life to mine. Don't say, oh my God, what she's been through. No, my life was a piece of cake. I had just a little bit of a emotionally unavailable father, or my cat died. whatever. Do not ever compare your life to others. Your suffering is real. It doesn't matter what happened to you. Some people's lives is easier. Some people have easier lives. That's true also. I saw that, and I had a time in my life where I thought like that is not fair. But it is what it is. You get the ticket that you get the ticket for. Recording this video for you is such a joy for me because my intention with this video is really that when you see that, it's not so much about what I say, but how I say it, the consciousness, the energy, my real human sharing. That when you break the chain of silence, you let go and become aware of your shame, and you really connect to the rage and fury inside of you that you think might destroy yourself or others, it's not true. These are natural, normal energies and emotions that we all should have learned to process and handle healthy when we grew up. Most of us didn't. So now when we get raging, hateful, or angry, we are like all over the place. Yeah. So it takes skill, it takes time to get to know these energies, but these energies are vital. This energy, for example, now says no to a conversation with a doctor and says yes to a conversation with another one. This energy makes me move while I'm undergoing chemotherapy in starting a crowdfunding campaign that I want to go viral. Why? Because I can tell you the light is much stronger than the darkness. I know it because I'm an embodiment of it. For Christ's sake, I know it because I can feel it. My soft heart has endured so much and I never stop loving. But now I can really love. So it doesn't matter what happened to you. I pray for you. Life can be very hard and challenging for all of us. There's people that even experienced worse things that I can even imagine. This is not about it. It's not about the details of my story. I mean, there's many more stuff in my life that has happened that is extraordinary beyond words. It's not about the story, but I feel when I share it in all honesty that it will touch something in you. So let me get real. Shame. I felt that I was the worst person ever because growing up the way I grew up, I started to steal money. I started to lie. I did many things I'm not proud of, and I always knew that they were wrong, and it crushed my heart. I had to steal money to eat. I knew it was wrong. I did a lot of things that are not okay. And it made me feel worse about myself. I could never share this. I could never share that with people. I always thought if people really get to know me, they're going to see the darkness inside of me. They're going to see how bad I really am, because that's what I believed. And then the journey of my healing started, and I had to recover from experiences that completely conditioned my mind and my emotional experience and my identity of who I thought I was. And it was not just one modality and one way. I needed such extensive work that at times I really thought this will never end. And then the cancer came and it broke everything. It was radical. So the cancer came to confront me really with my silence. The silent killer came to confront me with my silence, with decades of suppressed emotions, decades of not protecting myself, decades of not doing that, not because I didn't want to, but because I was trained, conditioned, and I learned not to. And I accepted it. That's who I become, but not anymore. It was my husband that over the years, we just married 3 years ago, but we know each other for many, many more years, who said, I want you to stop doing what you're doing, to always give in, to always be nice. He's one of the reasons because he created a safety for me that I never had in my life. And I know people out there say, the man is not the solution to your problems. Well, in my case, in my life, my husband has saved me. He has saved that part that needed a stable home, a stable surrounding, so that I could go through this experience. I am very intelligent. I'm super intuitive. I have many great skills that I use in my connection with people when I help them heal. I had some training, but most of it comes really out of my life experience. I know one thing is important for you to remember now. If you have cancer, because every cancer journey is different, every cancer has a different energy and working through. It's not the death sentence that it used to be. But in fact, what is cancer? It's the miscommunication of cells. The cells don't cooperate with the rest of the cells and they just refuse to die. I stopped communicating with myself a long time ago. And it took me decades of my life and hard work to connect to myself again. And I had several occasions in my life where I seriously considered that death would be a kinder option. Break the silence. I don't want you to go out now, go to your parents' house and say, you did this to me and you do that to me. No, please don't. But let what I share sink in and find your courage back. Find your power back to protect yourself in whatever form feels appropriate to you without hurting other people. Protecting yourself and standing up for yourself is really scary when you've been conditioned your whole life not to do it, and that was based on surviving so you wouldn't get more abused. It's very hard because you have to go against the conditioning of your physical body who's conditioned to respond in a certain way. So I had to do a lot of body-oriented work to get the body in a state that I could consciously choose now to go into the energy of protection rather than freezing. In the beginning, it's very messy, I'm not very graceful yet, eventually that will come. I'm not very graceful when expressing my rage. That's what I wanted to say. Sometimes I am. But that is power. And believe me, when you're conditioned that you feel so unloved and you want people to like you, to love you, you will not be in your power. If you want people to affirm your worth, you will not be in your power. If you silence everything that is inside of you and you don't speak the truth, you will not be in your power. Yes, your life will change. You might lose people, you might get divorced, you might change jobs, you might move houses, countries, you might change a lot, or maybe you might change nothing of those things. And my journey is unique. You cannot take my example as saying, now, this is the story of every woman in ovarian cancer. I chose to be invisible. And cancer said, well, you can choose differently now. This is why I don't like the term, even though in social media that's how it's used, fighting cancer. The experience of going through the experience of cancer has gifted me freedom. When the oncologist said to me, you're going through a really hard time. Yeah, it's a very difficult situation you're in. And then I said, well, but I'm a better person and I'm happier than I was before because I'm connected to myself. Do I want to die? No, nobody wants to die. We would like to be immortal because I'm really, really, really grateful for every day now. So, breaking the silence in the next videos, I'm going to go into different topics. And this is a big one for me, but I felt that this needed to be shared. I love you.